So let's start for today's webinar. Let me share my screen. Okay, so is my screen visible to everyone? Okay, that's good. So let me go on to the slides and then we will start. First of all, we have our day two. This is something I forgot to edit. This is day two of our unlocking digital doors. First of all, let's see what we discussed yesterday. We saw that what is digital literacy, why do we need it, why do we need to understand it, and why do we actually need it in our lives. What are the most common tools that anyone online would use? We saw what's an website, what's an app, and what's the difference between the two. After that, we explored some of the browser options that included the search bar, forward button, backward button, bookmark button, the history, and the zoom in and zoom out options. We saw them. In email address, we saw different parts of them and what they are called, how they are formulated. And at the
Hello
end,
everyone, greetings. Hi Rabia, I hope you're doing great. Rabia, your voice was a bit breaking for me. I don't know, is it the same for everyone?
okay, so is everyone can,
Just show it with a thumbs up or thumbs down.
if my voice is clear to you, you can react thumbs up.
Do
And
you
if
all
it's
guys
not,
hear? Or is it breaking for you?
Hanifa says this is clear. So I guess for majority, my voice is clear. Maybe it's the issue from your internet connection. I don't know. Let me confirm. Is my voice clear to everyone? Thumbs up if yes, and thumbs down if no. Okay, so it's clear. Let's start again. So, yeah, it's clear. We were saying that what we discussed yesterday. All the way to email address, we saw how the different parts of the email address, the username part and the domain name part, we saw how they are formulated and how they are kind of consisted of how the username comes into the email address and how the domain name comes. After that, we saw file extension, different file extensions. I discussed .png, .jpg, MP4, MP3, and multiple. And we discussed what that file extension actually means. So today we are going to see what's a username and a password. For password, I specifically want to cover what is a strong password. And then we will discuss the two-step authentication, then OTP, then we will see some of the most common online scams, and at the end we will look into some resources that you can go to for more information about digital literacy and education. Okay, so first of all, what is a username? Just like your name, for example, if you have a name Maria, there can be multiple girls with the same name, with the name Mariam. Okay, so your name is not unique, but your username has to be unique. On any website, if you select a username, you can see if that username is already taken or not. The website will show you that this username is not available, choose another one. Just like when you create an email address and you are selecting your username, the website tells you if you can use this username or not. So username should be unique. It has to be unique. No two users can have the same username. It is an ID that is used to identify you on a computer system, on a network, or in any online service, in any online app or website. Whenever you go to a website with a username, the system identifies you with that username, and it links all of your information and all of your previous activity and resources to that username, right? And you will use that username with a password for secure login to access your account. Whenever you want to access your account, you need two things: a username and a password that you set earlier. In many cases, your email address for that particular platform can also be your username. If you did not select a username on a platform, your email will be your username on that platform, right? Now, what we have is a strong password. Is someone raising a hand? No, sorry. Okay, so what's a strong password? First of all, what is a password? It is a passcode that you use to access your account. Just like I said, you use it with a username to access your account settings and all the data stored on a particular platform. And now, what is a strong password? A password that is at least 12 characters long. It has at least 12 characters. It has a combination of uppercase and lowercase letters. It has digits in it, it has special characters in it, and it does not include any personal information or dictionary word. Like some people will use a password that is like their cat name followed by any random number 1 2 3, like Tom 1 2 3, cat 1 2 3, anything like that. And they will do it with multiple other cases. They can combine their birthday and their name and make that a password. That's a weak password. You should never include your personal info in a password. Like anyone knows your name, and most of the people also know your birth date, right? Most of the people know your cat name, and the random number can easily be guessed. So a strong password is what is 18 characters long. It has a combination of digits, uppercase letters, lowercase letters, and special characters without having any personal info or dictionary word. By dictionary word, we mean any random word that is in our dictionary, like cat, like dog or a bat, table, chair, anything like that. It should not be guessable in any case or form. Next, what we have is two-step authentication. Just like we discussed earlier, to access your account, to access your information stored on a particular platform, you need to log in using your username and password. Now, here are two cases. One is when you provide your username and password, hit enter, and you are logged into your account. And the second case is that you enter your username, your password, hit enter, but you're not logged in into the account yet because you need another step of authentication. You need to verify again that it is you who is trying to access the account. It is not someone else. Now, what that second type of authentication is, that is what we name as two-step authentication. Two-step, one is your login, and second is what we will see now, an extra layer of security for accounts requiring your password. That is the number one step, plus a second factor. What that second factor is, it can be a code from your phone, something you have. It can be a biometric scan, that's something you are, right? What is a code from your phone? If you have set your email address or your phone number on a particular account, that website can send a code to your phone number and your email address and ask for that code to log you into the account, right? So first you provide your username and password, and then the website sends you a code, and then you enter that code on the website, and then you are logged into the account, right? And if the website is not using a code, it can use your biometric scan, which can include your fingerprint or which can include your facial recognition, right? So these are three things. First step, you need to have something you know, something you said earlier, that is your password, something you have, your phone that will receive a code, that is something you have. your biometric scan, that is something you are, right? So first step, you log in using your username and password. The second step is you verify yourself again through a code or biometric scan. That is our two-step authentication. And why it is necessary? Because if there is a case that someone knows your username and password, somehow someone knows your username and password, they will go to the website, enter your username and password. But if you have your two-step authentication turned on in your settings, the that other person will not be logged into your account directly. They will be asked for the second step of authentication, that is a code or a biometric scan, and they will not have that form of authentication and they will not be able to log into your account. If you don't have your two-step authentication turned on, then anyone with your username or password can log in to your account without any additional authentication. Next, we are going to see some of the most common scams that are happening online. First of all is imposter scam. For example, if you have a bank account, then you can receive a random call. The person on the call be can say that he is from that bank, and there is some issue with your account, your funds are frozen, you cannot access them, and you need to provide this and this information to me to be able to access your account again. So let me repeat it. If you have, this is just an example, right? If you have a bank account, you can receive a random call from a very random number. The person on the call can say that I am from this bank account and I have something to say. What is something to say is that your account is frozen, you cannot access your funds, you need to provide me your this password or your this code to be able to access your account, to be able to send or receive them again in your account, right? So, what you will do in that case? First of all, if someone doesn't knows about this kind of scams, they will panic and they will provide anything that the person asked for just because they think their account is frozen and their money is going to be wasted. And another thing that the person on the call can do is create a sense of urgency. Like if you don't do it now, the account will not be able to access again, and your money will be wasted. So anything like that. This is just an example. The call from can be from anyone else, like from someone who is trying to say that I am from this official center or government official, and I need you this information for this purpose. So they will try to make you feel that it's urgent and you need to give it to me, right? So if you don't know about it, you will instantly give it to you. But what you need to know is that if anything like that happens, what you want to do is do not give any information on the spot. You want to verify that what that person is saying is true or not. If this is your from your bank account, you can call your bank account helpline number and ask for confirmation if there is any problem. And if there is any problem, do not try to resolve that using a phone call or through online method. Go there physically and see what the problem is. Most probably there will not be a problem, right? But if there is something, then you should go by yourself and check and resolve that in a physical condition, not in an online presence. Next, we have a phishing. This is most common. This is one of the most common when you are online. This can happen in multiple cases. This can be in the form of text or in the form of an email or in the form of a phone call or anything like that. How is that happening is you can receive an email that is saying that I am from this company. Like if you have an account on any platform, The email can claim to be from that platform and can ask you to click on a certain link, right? Now, if you're thinking that it's just a link, I can click it, there's no problem. There is a problem because you don't know what that link is and where that link will take you. If you click any link that is not from an authorized source, that link can contain a path to a downloadable file that can download automatically into your system and can execute automatically and can transfer your data to the person who sent the email automatically without requiring any action. Or that email can take you to a fake page asking you for the login information. That is a fake page, right? If you enter your login information there, the information will go to the person who sent you the phishing email, right? That is a scammer. So there can be a fake login page ahead, there can be a malicious executable file ahead that is and that can be downloaded automatically and executed automatically and will cause harm to your system that can encrypt, like lock your files on the system. And there are multiple more cases, these are just very common ones. It can happen in the form of an email or it can happen in the form of a text. Next we have is tech support scams. This is something like if you have, for example, a Dell laptop and you receive a call from someone who says that I'm from this company's tech support. Like if you have a Dell laptop and the person can say I'm from Dell support, Dell tech support, and we are launching an update for the our devices, and you need to go to this link to be able to update your system, right? Now that link again can have multiple things. It can have a virus that can download automatically into your file, into your system. It can have again a software that can lock your files onto your system and multiple more cases. Next we have is online shopping or marketplace scams. It is like when you go shopping online, there are multiple resources from where you can shop online, but not all of them are true, not all of them are genuine. Some of them are fake, and they will ask you for money in advance before delivering the item. They will kind of ask you to send the payment before receiving the item, right? There can be multiple people who are trying to do that. They can present themselves as an official marketplace, or they can be an individual sellers like we have on Facebook Marketplace, right? So there can be multiple cases on the seller side and on the buyer side as well. If you are a seller on a Facebook Marketplace or anything like that, the buyer can kind of um, like he will send you an amount, not exactly, he will just send you a notification that says that he sent this amount that will be more than what you listed your item for. Then the amount is not transferred, actually that is just a fake notification. Then he will say that, oh, I sent more money accidentally, can you please return the change back? And you will kind of transfer the change back. What is happening here is you received no money, but you are sending actual money. That is also a scam. The online shopping or marketplace scam can be from the seller or the buyer side. Okay, so let me go back to the phishing point. I want to show you something. How can you identify the phishing scams? First of all, I have a mail here. This is a genuine mail. Okay, this is not a phishing mail, but I just want to show how you can identify the phishing mails. First of all, you want to see who the sender is. From here you can see it. Just like I said, the login page can be from a platform you have an account on. For example, you have a Facebook account, so the phishing email can be something like that says that this is from Facebook. So you can actually check that if this is from Facebook or not. Just like we saw earlier, this is the username part and this is the domain part. What you want to see is the domain part. Here you can see if the email is actually from facebook.com. If that will be from facebook.com, here will be facebook.com, right? If that is a phishing email and not from official sources, here can be anything that is kind of similar to facebook.com. How similar? For example, there can be, let me type it here. If we have Facebook like that, so the phishing email can be from this. Can you see the difference? What I did here is removed one zero and added one, removed one O and added the zero in place of it. So now it is not facebook.com. It will not take me anywhere. It is not a genuine domain, right? The facebook.com will be different and this is not facebook.com. This has a zero in it instead of an O. So this is the most common kind of way to identify the phishing emails. And let me see it again. Okay, we will let it load. And how can you identify the phishing links? Just like I told you that you can see if the domain name part is genuine or not, there can be minor changes that will be noticeable, but if you look closely, only if you look closely, they will be noticeable. Recently, I saw something like that where they replace kind of, let me type it here. If we have a domain like map.com, right? What they will do is remove this M and do this. Like, wait. What I did is remove the M and type the R and N in place of it. Now, if you don't look it closely, you will consider it as M, but it is not M, it is R and N. If you will not pay attention, this will seem M to you. You will read it as map.com, but it is not map.com because we don't have M in here. We have R and N.